next. Chris Brown joined by Bills General Manager Brandon Beane. Brandon Beane's segment here on One Bills Live, presented by Northtown. Whatever you're looking for, you'll find it at Northtown. Northtown, the official automotive dealer of the Buffalo Bills. So, are we tired of answering James Cook questions at this point?
You know what? It's always something, right? You can never just walk through and have a perfectly healthy team and everyone signed that wants to be signed and perfect weather every day. It's just the life of training camp.
Let me try to shape it differently, because I know you've talked about being in constant communication with his people. So would you call the level of dialogue relatively steady throughout, the spring and summer? Or?
Well, I think there was dialogue, but when you're at the end of the day, I think I even said it like, hey, once we kind of got all those guys signed in that draft class and Josh's deal, the draft is very important. So all eyes on that. And then
I remember you saying that.
It's at that point we're kind of working on our draft guys, and so once we don't really get it done, then we're usually, you never say never, we're usually like, hey, we're not going to really look at anything until we get to camp. And so that's kind of where it was. So there wasn't really much communication. There's been communication since we've been here, and as I said earlier this morning, this is my 9th season here. I've never had a player missing a practice over contracts. So, I take personal responsibility for that. I don't like that. I don't, one of my jobs is to make sure I'm eliminating any distractions from our team and our organization. And so, unfortunately, that's where it's at from a decision that he and his camp, made the last couple of days. There's a day off. Hopefully soon we can, get some resolution one way or the other, whether that's a deal or whether that's, hey, there's no deal now, let's play it out and go from there.
Is this where being creative between the two parties can be helpful sometimes? Because I'm sure you guys have talked ad nauseum about the straight, hard, cold facts as they are, but maybe getting creative, can, maybe create a crack and an opening for common ground to be found.
Yeah, I mean, it's, every negotiation takes on its own life. And, I feel like here we've had a lot of success, with a lot of agents. And, unfortunately, I've never done a deal with this crew before. And so we're, still trying to fill that out. And I guess they would probably say the same. You'd have to ask them. But, it is what it is. I always say that it takes two to tango. And, when you do a deal, it's got to be right for the club and right for the player. And when you don't have a deal, that means it's not right for one or both.
And not just for 2025. I mean, you got to think beyond that, too, just as the general manager. You got a responsibility to your entire roster for 26, 27, and beyond, right?
Yeah, that's really – I mean, Kevin Meegank does a great job, helping manage our cap and project. And we have a lot of sessions and meetings just looking at our cap, looking at how people do contracts, who we would potentially – we're already talking about who we would potentially restructure, who we would, depending on how they play this year, could have to have a pay reduction, or we do something – like you're constantly doing that.
Planning and replanning.
Planning and replanning, and things can change. Guys can perform above that, and guys can – you think you're not worried about, and like, man, they hit the injury bug, or they're just not performing as well. There's so many things, but we're constantly having those dialogue. But you're exactly right. It's – people can say, well, you can do this and this and make it work in 25. That's fine, but every dollar less you take this year is adding on to those years. And so we're, we have to work everything, obviously, around Josh Allen's contract. And we always want to pay him all, especially our own. And listen, there's no hard feelings with Jimbo at all. Love Jimbo. And sometimes you just have to agree to disagree and keep working on things.
Last season was the year of the wrist injury.
It was.
This training camp has been mostly soft tissue.
Yep.
And, we heard, you kind of sensed it in Coach's voice, because obviously he's got an agenda and stuff he has to get done in an allotted amount of time. And he's, like you could tell, we got a game in 5 days and we got to get ready. And I mean, the coaches even took steps to back off. I know you saw the first 2 days of 2-minute drills, they ran at half speed to take the pressure off the legs or whatever joints and not push guys in terms of the ones that were healthy. But then more guys were still getting hurt. So, I mean, workarounds get pretty challenging here when the injury list gets this long.
Yeah, this has been tough. It's been a little bit of a domino effect, and there's no finger pointing. We're all working together, and I think Sean and Bobby and Chris Tabor and Joe Brady have done a great job. I've either been in part of some of those meetings or been on the outskirts just cliff noting where we're at, what our plan is for practice, how we're going to do it. But they've been in constant communication with Nate, Joe Collins, and Will on where we're at, how we can get guys back. We're trying to get guys back, but the less you have at a position, the higher workload it is. So it's a balance because, to Sean's point, we've got a real game. I know it's a fake game, but we're playing another opponent. It's full speed. We can't in the third quarter ask the official to go 80%, or
right,
or do a walkthrough.
Got half speed here, guys.
Yeah,
for the next two series.
We're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so as the coach, that's a little unnerving for him. And so I feel for what he's having to deal with right now, managing all this. Yet also, he doesn't want to walk out there and watch us get our face smashed in.
Right.
And so there's a fine line to callousing your team without breaking your team. And unfortunately, we just started behind we had 4 guys out that had some things that happened over the summer, and that definitely did not help us to start there. And then you get a guy here or there, and now all of a sudden you're really thin at some positions. So we've been swimming upstream here. It feels like almost since day 3 or 4 of camp, and we're trying to get out of it, but we're still in the middle of it right now, and we're just going to keep putting our heads together and work our way through this.
Yeah, and I know, Tyler Bass has the pelvic soreness, and he hasn't been kicking in, about a handful of days now. And I'm not making light of this at all, but Friday night, at the Blue and Red, there's Ray Davis kicking some field goals.
Yeah.
So what do we think of Ray, and is he the odds-on favorite to be your emergency guy?
I would say put the Vegas odds on Ray. Ray Davis may have to. Who knows? Maybe he's got to kick a little bit on Saturday. We'll see where we're at. But I thought Ray did a good job. That was a cool opportunity for him. He stepped right up and he did it. You don't mind trying it, but you don't want that to become a norm.
Well, right.
And
but
so hopefully,
if you need somebody, you got somebody.
We got somebody.
Yeah,
we'll
that's
see
great.
how that goes.
2 receivers, one that has been here a while and has flat out worked his tail off to get an opportunity, and another guy who's a newcomer, Wilkerson and Shavers. To some degree, Wilkerson has been the beneficiary of some of the injuries at the position, but you can't blame him for stepping up and taking advantage of it. For fans that really aren't familiar with Wilkerson, what can you kind of outline about his background? Because he's an older guy that's kind of bounced around the league, but maybe just paint the picture of him as a prospect and what kind of made him attractive to bringing him into camp here.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. We talk about the frustrations of injuries, but there is a positive, and some younger guys, some guys that we aren't as familiar with here that we've scouted through playing against them or whatever. He's played in New England and Vegas and some other spots. He's bounced around. He's had some spot duties, but he's played NFL varsity football, and he's come right in here. He's had no fear. He's picked up the playbook from when we signed him in the spring, and he's been fun to watch. I think to your point, Shavers has, for a couple of years has been one of the fan favorites and one of our favorites to push for that roster spot, and has been on our practice squad. But I think Wilkerson's had a heck of a camp, has gotten a decent amount of reps with the first group due to some of those injuries, and I don't see a guy that doesn't look like he doesn't belong.
Yeah, and he's put together too, and I know the importance that you guys put on receivers being able to block in the run game, and just looking at his physique, it looks like he can fill the bill there too. Another player that you and Sean know a lot longer than most of us, Shaq Thompson, and it's a shame he's out with the hamstring injury now, but I got to tell you, I've seen players come back from Achilles injuries before, and it's usually 12 months removed. This guy's 10 months out from Achilles surgery, and he was all over the place the first week of camp. I mean, he was really killing it. And I mean, the hamstring injury stinks. It's not a long-term thing, hopefully, but what can you say about the way he came in, made an impact, and he's not a spring chicken either. That's a major injury to come back from so soon. What were your thoughts on his ability? Maybe you're not surprised at all knowing him like you do.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if he wasn't coming off the Achilles, it would have been an unbelievable get for us, just the person, the DNA. obviously we spent a couple of years in Carolina with him, and then beyond that, the two guys he played with, Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis, he learned from two of the best, and I've always followed his career, always had a good personal relationship with him. He is Bill's DNA, like through and through, and so to have an opportunity to get him here, the timing worked out, and to your point, man, I told him, like, Shaq, this is as physical as I've seen you, and I said part of that's on me. We're in the AFC, you're in the NFC, so there's not a lot of cross tape.
You don't see a lot. Yeah.
When he was on or the Panthers were on, I'd try and catch it, but man, when he came out the first couple years we had him, he was so athletic. He was more that run and chase, and I think Thomas Davis's violence definitely rubbed off on him in a great way. He was one of our most physical players leading up into the red-blue scrimmage when he got the hamstring. We've got a good plan together, and hopefully get him back here sooner rather than later.
Because that's just valuable veteran to have just in the room alone, let alone on the field. Coach was pretty straightforward when the Hairston injury news came down, and everybody was like breathing a sigh of relief because it's a week-to-week injury, not a season ender, as I think some people were fearing. But he did say, look, the facts are the facts. He can't make up the time. He can't get back the time he's going to miss. But my question to you is, you had a similar situation last year with a rookie in Cole Bishop. Is there anything that the coaching staff can take from that experience and maybe apply differently this time around to have Max maybe even a little further ahead than where Cole was? Or is it just the fact of the matter is he's missing physical reps? It's just going to be very hard to make it up.
Yeah, I think our guys really did a good job last year of trying to get Cole as many walk-through reps and things like that, but you just couldn't, really get him out there. And then, and then he plays a little bit, and obviously – got to start in the Houston game. And
week 5, right.
Didn't go perfect. But I say it all the time, like, Tyrell Bernard's first start against the Jets a few years ago didn't go perfect. Like, it's a lot to go from college defense to NFL, and a safety and a linebacker are going to have a lot on their plate. I would say the one positive, a corner's probably got a little less on his plate than a safety.
That's a good point.
From that standpoint. But there's nothing you can do. I think at the point when our docs and trainers say he can at least get back into walkthroughs, getting those reps, at least if they're not at full speed, they are reps, and you can't, those are things you lose, and he's going to lose all these live reps, but we'll do everything we can to get him up to speed. Right now he's in meetings doing all that, but his main task is to spend time with our medical team and get cleared.
And then the last one I've got for you, I think a lot of the focus this offseason, and understandably so, has been on the defensive side of the ball, all the additions you made both in free agency and the draft, and I get all that, and I understand, people are focused on it. But I just feel like special teams has not been kind of covered or talked about enough, and getting Chris Tabor in here, a veteran special teams coordinator, which I think is the first time you've had a guy that's done it in the league previously at that level since 2018 when Danny Crossman was here. Can you just speak to, plus he's been doing research all last year. He's just watching the league and studying everybody. I just feel, just watching him out on the practice field and talking to some people and the way he coaches, that you're going to go into every game on Sunday with the chance to have a game day advantage in that phase of the game with this guy running the show for you. Do you feel similarly, or? Yeah,
I would agree. Tabes is I knew who he was. We've worked with common friends around the league. We've both been in the league, a number of years, and so had heard really good things about him. Matter of fact, I remember his name came up all the way back when I was in Carolina with Rivera. I think they had crossed paths somewhere, but long story short, it's been great to work with him. Really spent some time with him in the draft process as he was kind of going through some prospects, and we were looking at players. So really got to know him then, and then it was fun to see him in the spring kind of coach. But I see a guy that has the personality. The guys enjoy being around him, but he's not afraid to jump him if he needs to be, and he brings a confidence to the group that I think will help this group, and we've tried to, get his ideas on what he sees in certain players. Look at our players from a fresh lens. You don't have any bias. You don't have any partiality. Like, go watch the tape this spring, and even Turner West, that he hired.
The assistant special teams coach,
has been a good hire, and I like both those guys have been really working, and they had not worked together before, but I really like what they're doing. I'm excited. Obviously, we got to get out there and do it, and it's up to me to make sure we give them the right pieces, each week to go out there and make an impact.